It's the Golden Age of WWE. Larger than life of fantasy. Step in the ring, feel history. Welcome to the Golden WWE.
Sean? I'm doing great. Crazy day, but I'm glad I got a chance to sit down because we have a lot to talk about today, Steve Fall. Right. And actually, it should be like a two-parter, and we'll explain as we get into this.
Yes, it should be, because today we're talking about Survivor Series 1991. And this Survivor Series really connects to another event this Tuesday in Texas, which might be voted the worst name ever for an event. But we will get to that possibly in another episode down the line. But today, Survivor Series 91. Before we get into anything, what was it like having these events either on Thanksgiving or this one on Thanksgiving Eve? What was it like for you? Because everyone's away from their family. So what Thanksgiving things are actually happening backstage to feel like you're celebrating?
Yeah, it was, I mean, you got used to it. That's what we did. And it's like anything else. And it's been pretty much the story of my career is that when you work in entertainment, television, or news, whatever it is, you're working on holidays and weekends, and that's just the life. And you have crazy hours. You're either waking up too early or you're staying up too late, but that is part of the business. And of course, we'd gotten used to doing this event on Thanksgiving Day, and this was different because it was Thanksgiving Eve, which meant we'd all be home for at least the ones that lived in Stamford, because a lot of times these guys really didn't even have the chance to get home. And of course, as you mentioned, this Tuesday in Texas was an event that was going to be taking place not many days later. So, it was just part of our life. And it was nice in that sense that I remember we did get to, because we would take, the jet and be back sometime in the middle of the morning, but you'd be, back home the next day. So it was, in a lot of ways, it was just another one of these pay-per-view events. And it's funny, as I look back, as I was thinking today, is that they added this other event, within a week, and everybody's like, what the hell? Oh my God, how are we going to do this? And, today it's just common practice. It's just kind of the way things are. They have them basically, sometimes more, but one or two a month. So, but back then, we had the big four basically, and it was the way the whole season went, if you want to call it. And so to be able to turn it around and do this other one, it was a big ask back then for everybody involved.
Are you being fed though? Is there a turkey? Is there a stuffing? Is there mashed potatoes backstage, or is that not happening?
No, that was always the case. Especially they'd have a big spread, big turkey spread for those days, and it wasn't the greatest food in the world, but you did appreciate the fact that they did know it was a holiday, and you did have turkey and all the trimmings. So. That night it was the same thing, because as I said, maybe a lot of these guys maybe weren't going to have the opportunity to get home to spend some time with their loved ones.
Yeah, I always thought that was strange when you look at wrestling, and even as a fan at the time, you're thinking, how do you convince your parents on Thanksgiving Day? This one's on Thanksgiving Eve, Thanksgiving Day every year for the past couple. Like, hey, mom and dad, I know grandma and grandpa are coming over. They drove all the way from Florida to see here, but can we watch Survivor Series? Is that all? Do you think it's a hard sell for regular people having Thanksgiving versus just a single person who's going to watch wrestling?
Well, I think, exactly the way we tried to sell it. It was no different than, watching football on holidays. True. And this was another event, a must see. So I think that a lot of people, that was part of the holiday for them. Where I'm going to have this, what could it be better? What could be better than you get to have Thanksgiving, which is happens to be one of my favorite holidays, because you don't have to bring gifts necessarily. If you're going to somebody's house, you could bring a bottle of wine or something. Like they say, don't come with your arms swinging. But for the most part, where you're not worrying, you didn't have to go out shopping and get special gifts for everybody. You show up, just stuff your ass full of food all day, loosen the belt and sit back on the couch and watch football or watch, of course, the Survivor Series. What else would you want to do? And it was a perfect holiday. So that wasn't a tough sell for people who were wrestling fans at the time.
It's just so funny because for years it was on Sundays and then now it's on Saturdays. And then for so long, it was just like, it's a Monday. It's going to be Thanksgiving. It's on Thanksgiving Eve. Like, there was no rhyme or reason on when these things landed. It was just a weird situation for Survivor Series 91. It's funny because doing research for this event, like at first I wanted to do it because I wanted, it'll be a great idea to connect this to this Tuesday in Texas, have a double bonus episode. But this Survivor Series, any review you find, all negative. There is not a good thing to be said about the Survivor Series. And
there isn't anything good to be said about the Survivor Series.
I was going to defend it. The commentary is so all right. I watched it, and I'll tell you what. I watched it half cocked. I'm doing other things. I'm looking at it, maybe folding some laundry, playing with my kids, but I'm watching it. What's consistently great about it is the commentary of Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. Any garbage could be on television, but listening to them talk, I was like, wow, I could see why someone could think this is bad, but also the commentary is just so good.
Oh yeah, they're just so good together. I was watching some of it, and the comments and other stuff with Gorilla and Bobby. And I remember one where Bobby's commenting how he keeps going in and out of the ring, and Gorilla says, "I'm gonna throw you in and out of this arena if you don't shut up." Like the stuff that he could say to him, and that's why that dynamic works so well. I've mentioned that before because he would let Bobby go, mouthing off. And then it was like the big smackdown. And then Bobby would have to retreat and kind of get back into the good graces of Gorilla, and they could continue on. And that was one of the wonderful parts of their dynamic that made it work so well.
So you agree, though, that you think this is a terrible pay-per-view. Now, I'm interested to see your perspective on this because you worked there. Why do you feel like it is?
Well, and I think that you have to couple this with this Tuesday in Texas, which we'll be doing another episode on, which is a whole other pit to dive into. But overall, and I made my living shilling events. That was pretty much what my main job was there. And as I've explained before, Superstars and Wrestling Challenge were actually just one big commercial. Those were promotional tools to get people to go to the house shows. And of course, as we started with the pay-per-views, it was all about getting people to buy the pay-per-views. And this event, Survivor Series, for a number of reasons, which I will talk about, was one big supercharged wrestling challenge, is what it came down to. And it's funny, I've heard people make comments of, that Undertaker Hulk match was, the third match in, and that's, because Hulk Hogan wanted to be home with the family. Like, come on, that was not it at all. It was brilliant in a sense. Okay, we get this match over early, we create all this controversy, and then for the rest of the pay-per-view, we get to sell what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. So, that's what it was all about. This was a gigantic promotional event. And I think a lot of people saw through that. And we had some other moments which are worth discussing, but when you come down to it, and I was never a huge fan of these events when you had 4 or 5, whatever number of teams you would go in there, because after a while, there's only so much you can do with them. And depending on their level of skill, whether or not those matches were entertaining, and sometimes it would be, 2 of the guys were good, but the rest of it was just, slop. And so I was never a huge fan of it. And then, of course, they threw in this match with Hulk and The Undertaker with all the idea of what was going to happen next, and to try and do this event. Can we turn around an event within days and capitalize over what happened previously these days before, which was a predecessor to what they do even today, where you can have an event like this and then build something up, and just a few days later we're going to get some kind of end to it, some kind of thing between these two guys where you get it settled. So it was, they were trying things out. They wanted to see, can we do this? The event didn't do great anyway. If you look at the buy rate, it was down from the year before. And then this Tuesday in Texas, which took place just a few days later, 5 days later, or I guess 6 days. It was a Wednesday to a Tuesday. I don't know the exact dates how it played out day wise, but to turn something around that quickly, they did make some money off, but I think the buy rate for the second event was about half of what they did. I think it was 300,000, something like that. And then this the event this Tuesday in Texas did about half of that. So there you go.
You were paying half. It was $12.95 for this Tuesday in Texas. It was $27.95 for Survivor Series. But yes, that is the number one feeling I felt too when watching it for the first time ever, watching it and you're thinking, oh, this is gonna be great. And you think, wow, Hogan versus Taker is now. Oh, okay, whatever. Oh, it ends. But this event, when it even starts, this event starts, the first thing you see is Jack Tunney promoting this Tuesday in Texas. That's the first thing you see. He's talking about the most famous, one of the most disturbing moments ever, the Cobra biting Macho Man's arm on television.
Appalling.
It's one of the greatest things ever. I know we'll do like a full episode about just that moment at some point, but the outrage that comes forth from fans and being just, this is crazy. What were your thoughts on this? Did you get so much pushback from this event? That's why you had to, ban Reptiles from ringside?
Oh yes, of course. Which they were hoping to God that it would happen, and it did. They knew that, man, people are going to go out of their minds, and they knew that right away just by the reaction of people at ringside in that arena when Randy was locked up with the Cobra. I first of a couple of things I want to give credit to President Jack Tunney, because I think if you think he was the perfect person to play that role, he pulled it off really well, and with that authority and the belief and everything that went with it. But I just find it so amusing that all animals are banned from ringside. It's like, and one of the reasonings with the Cobra is because, it was a Cobra and it bit Randy Savage, but it was the fact that, it was supposed to be devenomized, and that's like one of the things he mentions in the banning is that it didn't turn out that way because Randy Savage ended up in the hospital. That's why we're really outraged here. So
it's venomized too. A venomized King Cobra bit one of your employees that you're in charge of.
Well, I'm telling you that it's just the absurdity of it all, and we're the banning animals. I mean, it's a good thing that that Undertaker didn't have a buzzard that needed to be ringside because we would see that later. But it just went with how just insane all of it was, and if you didn't catch on right away, because wrestling fans have always been smart in many parts of this, and I think that early on they realized we're getting a little bait and switch happening here, guys.
I think though, how do you? The King Cobra thing is one of those moments where you always feel like who you don't want to act with, animals and children. This King Cobra cannot be controlled to get off Macho Man. It's one of the most disturbing images you've ever seen. The cameraman getting close-ups of the snake. And I even sent you a link. I watched the pre-show, the showdown that you hosted in a bow tie. Nice tux. He looks great. And they show this.
That's the one Bruce Pritchard ruined, by the way, but that's another story.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We'll talk about that later off camera. Vince, though, screaming, "It better be devenomized. It better be devenomized. Is it?" And then you come back and you're like, yep, it was venomized. It had venom inside it.
That
somehow it's
evil Jake Roberts.
He's alive.
Yeah. How he survived, we will never know. But Jake talks about though that because of all of the rigmarole, the stress that Randy put him through about, brother, I want you to put that, I want to see it bite you, and the whole to make sure it was good. So Jake talks about before he went out there, with that Cobra, he gave it a couple of good, so that thing was ready to bite anything. and that's why it locked on. It wasn't going anywhere. Somebody had to pay.
Dude, it's still one. I think it's top. It is a top moment. Like Mankind being like tossed over a Hell in the Cell, then threw it and thumbtacks is just on the level because he decided to do those things. He decided to go up there. This snake is like, I'm going to eat your arm. And everyone is going to love it. Yeah. We'll do a full episode later on about why Macho Man and Jake had to happen because obviously Warrior, we did a whole episode about it, about Ultimate Warrior being fired by Vince McMahon after SummerSlam 91, which changes everything about this event. But the first thing we see, again, Survivor Series 91, is Jack Tunney promoting this Tuesday in Texas, saying that I know everyone wants Macho Man to be reinstated, but he won't be. But he will be this Tuesday in Texas. And Jake the Snake is out of his Survivor Series match. Imagine you bought this for Jake. And but they do promos. Yeah. They still come out and cut. Hey, by the way, this Tuesday in Texas. Hey, this Tuesday in Texas.
Yeah. Well, and that said Justice was out too now, but at least people had an idea of that before they got out the wallet. But I also wonder about the whole thing that Sid had the damaged elbow. I think that was the injury that they said was inflicted upon him. But I have to wonder about that. You never really knew what was a work and what wasn't, because Sid also loved softball, and it has come out. I mean, really, that when it came down to it, that Sid really didn't care that much about the business so much, but he knew it was a great income. But you got to imagine an event like this. It's on Thanksgiving. He's just going to be a team guy, whatever. Oh man, I don't know. But I know nothing about that. I have no idea if any of that may have been true. I just knew that he liked softball a lot, and there were a few occasions that he had talked about where that was something he wanted to do more that week. If you listen to the podcast I did with him on Primetime with Sean Mooney, he mentions his fondness for softball. But that's we digress. We get off the track here because then you have Jake Roberts, and everybody thinks who's going to fill Sid's position? Who's going to be that team member? Naturally, who else could it be, Steve?
It would seem that you're going into
right?
this. It'd be Macho Man.
Yes, right? The heat that those two have. But what do? Randy Savage. Jake Roberts is gone too. So it's just going to be less team members. Okay, I guess I already paid, so I'm going to watch and see what happens. But what the hell?
That's what makes this Survivor Series so hated, because you have people being pulled from it. Because you're right. Again, I watched that showdown with you hosting it, and I've watched random superstars and wrestling challenges get ready for this, and they acknowledge on television multiple times who is going to replace Sid. It becomes like a theme through episodes of who is going to replace him. Even the WWF does a reinstate Macho Man hotline where you can pay 79 cents to call the WWF to tell you that you want Macho Man reinstated. I did the math. 79 cents in 1991 is only $1.85 in 2025 as we record this. Not a lot, but still, then you
multiply that by thousands, though, and it does add up. And
but you pulled him. You had this
balls,
number, and then you pull him.
The balls of these people, because they knew what they were doing all along. We even had, the magazine was we were putting all kinds of stuff in there, and going into this, they knew what they were going to do. Once Sid was out, there wasn't a whole lot of discussion about what getting Randy in there, and I'm sure there was, but I think that they found the advantage of, okay, now we can build this up, and then it could help us at the next event. So it really was. And to the WWE's credit at the time, they're trying all kinds of different things. I've said before that, Vince had a great team of promotional people behind it. It wasn't just, they weren't necessarily, guys that were wrestling people. They didn't come from wrestling. They came from promotions and what got people's butts into seats, and what would get people to buy a pay-per-view and spend almost $30 to get it. So they were experimenting to see how people would react to this stuff. And as I said, this was laying the carpet here, as we would see the golden carpet as it would transpire in the years to come, of how they would do these events. So it was an experiment. They were willing to risk maybe some fan ire to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But, overall, I don't think it wasn't a point where it was a disaster and people were going, I will never watch the WWE again. There wasn't that. They may have been disappointed. And we'll talk about the big main event. But overall, I think that it was a time where, there was a lot going on, and they were trying to find ways to keep that audience and keep people coming.
I like that because, you go back a year ago, it's Survivor Series 1990. There's a little blurb that Saturday night's main event is going to be tomorrow night. So they already obviously taped this event, and it's Warrior versus $1 Million Man. So during Survivor Series 1990, it's barely there. They acknowledge it for a split second on the bottom of the screen that Warrior's going to fight $1 Million Man. And I don't know if someone said oh, well, that worked. We had an event before the other event that we could use to promote this. So maybe you see a ratings pop, you think we can pull the same shit off, but with a pay-per-view instead of, on NBC, let's charge people $12.95 because I'll be honest, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're going to clearly start this event off with a commercial for this Tuesday in Texas, as me convincing my dad to pay for this or someone, I might be a little upset. But the event's not terrible, but it's not great.
Yeah, and our motto really was you can't promote enough. I mean, for God's sakes, people had to see my mug 3 times in every single show promoting something, and then that would include a special report with Gene. And all we were doing was selling. And so it was something that people had very much gotten used to. But to just kick it off, but in a way that was creative, I thought, have why not start with the president, the authority of the WWE right there at the beginning, telling you what's going on, because you all want to know. There's all these questions out there, and we've got to get them answered. So what we're going to get the authority on right away and just set it up. At the same time, selling it up.
True. I do like the first match, though. Listen to these people. You got Ric Flair, who just came in to the WWE just a few months before that.
Right.
He's got the Mountie, Ted DiBiase, $1 Million Man, and the Warlord. They're taking on Roddy Piper, who has a storyline with Ric Flair. Bret Hart, who has a storyline with the Mountie. Virgil, who has a storyline with $1 Million Man. British Bulldog, storyline with the Warlord. So everything matches up perfectly here. And Ric Flair does have, we talked about it on a Ric Flair episode, he has a championship belt that they're trying to blur out, but yet I've been informed it's a WWE tag team title, a little bluish, and it's missing some things on the side. So in reality, he's holding up a tag team title at Survivor Series in front of the audience, and they're like, I'm sorry, I thought Legion of Doom were the champions. I think it's just hilarious.
Don't get it too close to that camera there, mister. Because people like you would recognize what the heck it really was. But you got the point of what he was trying to do, shoving it in Hulk Hogan's face. I'm the real champion, and creating that. But as you mentioned, that was a surprisingly good match. I think going in, I didn't expect it to be much, and especially the Warlord in there who couldn't do a tremendous amount because all those muscles got in the way. But it was surprisingly a good match. The problem, as I said, then you get these other ones, and then it just keeps going when you've just got these guys, and it's the storyline of them are tough to get over. But they did have some drama that was involved. We'll talk, the Rockers and then that big brawl where they just it's actually one of the best matches. And then they come out and disqualify everybody, and
Ric Flair wins.
Flair's the winner. And it's like everybody's like, wait a minute, it's like been the best thing we've seen all night, and then you just ding, 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 because he's the only reason he wins because he's out of the ring.
Yes. Everyone gets disqualified pretty much, except I think Bulldog and Warlord get out, and then the rest is Yep. It made for me, if a storyline, it made Ric Flair look like, oh, this guy's important. Like he just won this match against all these other people. Okay, cool. Because that becomes a theme throughout the night. It becomes like the Ric Flair show as time goes on in this evening. But it made him look great, I guess. But there's an image online which is so funny because there's a promo before the Survivor Series where Flair is on the funeral parlor with Paul Bear and with Hogan. And he's yelling at him like, you know how long I've waited for this moment? He's like, I'm the real world champion. That's the first time they ever cross paths.
Yeah.
And that's a huge moment for professional wrestling because this event really starts off the idea of, oh shit, we're going to get a Ric Flair Hulk Hogan storyline. And it's going to be on pay-per-view and it's going to be at WrestleMania 8, which we had a whole episode about as well, where that does not happen. But that
doesn't work.
Nope. The image though is Ric Flair opening his robe, but it's blurred out because of the championship. So it looks like he's flashing Hulk Hogan.
Which we're only doing for legal reasons. Right. And then the big come apart with Taker and the Urn, and then they're all beaten up on the Hulkster
with chairs.
Generating the heat, trying to make that happen and build that up. And as we talked about in that episode, a lot of people were surprised that it didn't go from there and really build up and something that people were demanding to see.
Yeah, I was surprised. I do like that funeral parlor thing because it's got Taker ripping the cross off of Undertaker. Roddy Piper and Macho Man are on commentary at the time. They leave the booth, they grab chairs, they hit Ric Flair, he runs away. They start smashing into Taker, and he's just playing it off like he's a zombie. He can't feel it. Like that, you're really setting up because on television, Undertaker at this point undefeated. But if you watch like house shows, he's losing all the time. But if you're watching actually television, this guy's undefeated, and it's the Gravest challenge because I've watched that pre-show beforehand that was free on the cable guide television channel if you had it back in the day, and it's you, and all it is promotional tools for Taker and Hogan, and really hitting home that the theme of this is the Gravest challenge, and I do like that. You talk about promotional in the WWE, that to me is great. Like this isn't just Survivor Series, this is the Gravest challenge for Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, and I also want to say that I loved watching this because now this is a point where Undertaker has really embraced that character, and you really see him coming into his own. You could see that confidence that he had in who he was in the ring, and the whole way that he was methodical, almost robotic to when he would do something, and he was really getting falling into that character that would carry him for the next umpteen years here, the decades that really. But he before that, it was kind of he was just. I remember him first coming in, and then when he was that the Undertaker character, and of course he needed Paul Bearer to help sell that, and he was still very understated, which was perfect for what he was doing and his development. But he was there, and you could see it. You could feel that presence of that character was going to be really strong, and he was getting really comfortable in it. And I love when we talk about the match, but when he's leaving and he does the thing with the whites of his eyes as he goes down, and he's walking down this thing, and he's staying in it because he knows the camera is right there. And I was just like, man, he is feeling it. And that was I love watching that back.
He drags the world championship too, and that was like the first time that people weren't wearing it or holding it up. He's I won this thing. That's great. I'm gonna drag it. I don't care. I'm a zombie dude. Yeah. It was amazing stuff. Speaking of Undertaker, this next matchup, I really want to ask you if you know anything about this. So the match that we see on television is Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Sergeant Slaughter, Texas Tornado, and El Matador, Tito Santana.
Yes, Tito Santana.
They defeat Colonel Mustafa, Berserker, Hercules, and Skinner. Okay, that's the match we get. Originally, though, in this matchup, there's 3 people missing, and they've been replaced by other wrestlers. Speaking of Undertaker, this one jumps out at me. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, at this point, is pretty much a dragon person, is supposed to be on Jim Duggan's team. He gets replaced, and it's Tito Santana. But yet the story that I've read for years is he was asked a job to Undertaker on television, not at a house show, on television, and he was supposed to lose again a week later to like really build Survivor Series. What do you know about this? Because it seems like maybe he's just like, I'm a dragon. I'm not doing much here. I can go somewhere else and become world champion or a tag team champion instantly, which he does.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of what Ricky was thinking at the time. I can understand why he would have been hesitant because they earn a place to a certain spot. They have a certain amount of say of how their character is going to go, and doing something like that takes you down a few pegs for sure. And if that's the decision he made, and then went to management and told those guys, no, I'm not going to do it, which several of them had done. Well, then you're gonna pay a little price for that, and that's what would have happened. But I don't remember exactly how that situation went down with him. But I do know that those guys, you've got to keep your place in the pecking order so that you can have more opportunities on these cards. And depending on how it goes down, they're going to have the center of the ring, and that's more difficult to swallow. But if it's something else where it's a count out or some kind of DQ or it's dirty dealings, but I know with Undertaker they just wanted him to be a force that was unstoppable. So it wasn't going to go down where it was, unless it's somebody like Hulk Hogan, where he's going to have to perform some dirty deed to make it to walk away with the belt or walk away with a victory.
It seems like, though, Ricky Steamboat, when he goes somewhere else, he always becomes world champion, or like another championship goes around his waist. The WWE, he won the IC championship from Macho Man in WrestleMania 3, and then the story goes he wanted time off because he had a baby, so he wanted to be home with his child. I can't imagine that went over well. And then here we are now. Hey, I don't want to lose to Taker. It's like, well, we have a history now. You've done this to me twice now. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong to say, hey, I want to protect my character, or hey, I want to be home with my kids. But if you're in this business, I can't imagine Vince McMahon being like, oh, that sounds great. You should do that. Like, oh, you want to, the guy I'm trying to build up, you want to not lose to? I think we're done here.
Yeah. And that's where you've got the conflict of, as we've discussed, that you need a great deal of confidence and feel like you're a headliner or at least near the top. And when management comes to you and says, we're going to need you to do this to put some shine on this guy, the pushback comes because, it's going to come to me at a price. And what do I get in return? That may have been a situation there. And these guys want to try and live somewhat normal lives. These guys get to a point where they're making enough money or something that they can take a break, but they're all, remember you're an independent contractor, you're on your own. And if something else happens in the meantime, or somebody else steps up and gets over, well, you're screwed. So you certainly have to have that in your mind that, well, if I'm going to do this, I've got to be willing to accept the circumstances that come with it, that I may not have my spot when I come back. There's guys that were doing really well at points and took a break or for whatever reason got in trouble, but and you could go for a month or 6 weeks and come back, and they may take you back, but you may never get past the mid card again. Right. So it's a huge gamble, and you hear that time and time again from these guys that said you got to ride that wave no matter what. You cannot get off the ride. You have to stay on it for as long as it takes you. Because you don't know once you step off if you can get back on and get back to the place you were. There's no guarantee at all, and we saw that time and time again.
Oh, endless stories of that. Yeah. Endless stories of that. So Ricky Steamboat quits, so he's not in the Survivor Series match anymore. And if I was him, at this point he's a fire-breathing character, and he carries around an alligator sometimes. But reptiles have been banned by Jack Tunney, so maybe. That's why he quit, because he was so upset with his alligator not being allowed to be at ringside. Maybe, I don't know. Jim the Anvil Neidhart also removed from this match. Sergeant Slaughter replaces him. And on television, he's beaten down by the Beverly Brothers, and Ric Flair, I believe, was who was beating him up. It's like, but why? Is this one of those moments where they're like, we need Bret Hart to be a star, so we remove you from here? Or because the Hart Foundation kept breaking up and then getting back. They didn't break up. They would just not be together randomly, then back together. And it's always like Survivor Series would point that out to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that, Jim had his issues and got in trouble a number of times. And when that happened, then Bret was on his own. We've heard the Road Warriors talk about that before. And where, when you're in a tag team like that, you're dependent on other people, that partner of yours, to be there for you. You're one and the same in a sense, because the two parts have to work together. I think that they always knew Bret was very capable of being a solo artist for the WWE, but that tag team was really over, and at a time when tag teams were a big part of what we did. So, I think that was the situation there, but, a lot of, there was always, you're going to always hear a lot of different stories about what happened. Why did this happen? And, part of it could have been from management doing a disciplining or whatever. And also it could be the guys just like, they're genuinely hurt. They need time to heal, or they're in trouble. So it's, that went on all the time. That's the way the roster was. I spent my life repairing all of those cards in the event center. Where I told you that we had the red phone, and it rang pretty much every day, where something would have to be changed on these cards because of something going on with one of the guys that they had to adjust and get somebody else in there to fill their spots, and then we'd have to fix the event center and get those out in all the shows again.
Yeah, this Survivor Series must have been really fun to do. So Sergeant Slaughter replaces him here, and he's doing his whole "I want my country back" type deal, because he realized he was a piece of garbage about 3 months ago at Survivor Series, and now he loves America. Why would we take him back? I don't know, but also,
you love Sergeant Slaughter. You got
I love him, but
and everybody loves a comeback. Yes, I know, but everybody loves a comeback, right? He saw the errors of his ways, and it's the old Sarge, and he loves America, and he'll put his life on the line anytime for his country. And so, yeah, I knew that anytime he wanted to come back, he would be embraced. And we should give credit to Sergeant Slaughter just as a worker, because why do you think he lasted so long? Why do you think that he was able to work so much? He was one of those guys that understood the business very well and was smart about it. He wasn't that he let them take advantage of him and do stuff, but he knew the power he had, what he could do to help guys, help give them some shine, and also and sometimes in those cases it helped the storyline for you. And Sarge understood that completely. And whenever they needed him to step in, reporting for duty.
Turn his back on America. He turned his back on Iraq.
So you're still mad.
And we're going to take him back.
You're
He's a
still mad. Let it go.
On two people. All right.
Let it go.
Right.
Let it go.
You've had some amazing stories today so far, and I want to hear some amazing stories about Big Bully Busick, who was only around in the WWE for, let's see, was it August to November? He doesn't even make it to Survivor Series. Do you have
enough said? Enough said. No, I mean, come on. No, I mean, there's nothing really to tell. I mean,
he had a bowler, he had like a bowler hat on and a big mustache. Yeah, he was an old style fighter.
Well, but as we, when you get these gimmicks that they come up with, and some of them are wah wah wah. Well,
listen, pal.
Huh? Yeah.
I feel like he's like, hey, listen, hey, trans going that
way. Yeah, it was like
hey?
Edward G. Robinson. What do you think of your Moses now? Mr. You wise guy. That.
It's classic. It's classic.
It doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, it does. And some of you would just, really, you didn't always know, unless you're talking gobbledygooker or something, that things aren't going to go well. But sometimes you think it might have something. There's a brawler, or the tough butt, and people just are like, yeah, okay, I don't care.
Yeah, he reminded me of.
Think about it, like how many people even remember that guy? How many? Really?
How dare you?
I don't even remember.
I'm going to get all my Big Bully Busick t-shirts out in a second. Don't make me.
And I don't want to. Yes, I don't.
I don't have any.
I'm speaking specifically to the character. Okay.
Of course, not the
Get
person.
me in trouble.
Hercules though replaced him, and Hercules wasn't doing much.
I
that
love
time.
Hercules.
He was a guy. He was a good guy.
Hercules
But this is one of
Hernandez.
those. This is one of those matches that the graphic pops up every November for Survivor Series, and people just look at it, go, "Whew, look at the faces and look at the characters from this time: Jim Duggan, Sergeant Slaughter, Texas Tornado, El Matador, Colonel Mustafa, Berserker, Hercules, Skinner."
Yeah.
Before we move on, though, this is the first Survivor Series that doesn't have names. You know, the Hulkamaniacs, the Warriors, the $1 Million Team. Every year before this, every team had the Rudes Broods or
and I
things of
love
nature.
that. I love that we'd
Same.
come up with this. Everybody had a team name. Yeah, I did.
Why not this time, you think?
That's a really good question, because I remember thinking, well, how do I promote these guys? I have to say all their names. It's I couldn't just say, before you had the team name, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And one thing that I did like about it when we did have these, because it was a showcase where everybody had their fans, and whether or not they were at the top of your list, but you liked these characters. Obviously, the ones who stuck around were over somewhat, and it was your chance to see them and to be able to give them a shot at doing the promos. I like that in these group promos. That made it easier for some of these guys because they'd have two lines. All you had to remember is I go third.
I know.
Don't step on Mooney's foot, because he's got to get the microphone over there. I mean, that's it. That's pretty much all you had to do. And so it was a great opportunity to get these guys out there and give them a little shot. Don't think that Pat Patterson and all those guys and Bruce weren't watching, and Vince, and they might see a little something that they do in these that you didn't want them freelancing too much, because you'd see that, because you'd have guys try and do these big spots, and you're like, dude, you can't do that because we had something else planned. You just made that one bigger than the spot we had going, and then you're in trouble. But they might see something that this guy does. And they're like, hey, and he got a good pop. Did you hear that pop? So it did. It was a chance for these guys to get out there, and it was a showcase for them. So there were some positive aspects to it.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I loved like the 4x4s, you had all these great names, and it's the first one that doesn't have that. And then the years before that, a couple years, it's actually Vince McMahon doing the voiceovers, like team captain. Those are amazing. And this one is just like the grieve. It sounds like it's starting with Halloween actually Jack Tunney shows up first, and then that's like Halloween. Next up is the world title, though. It's Undertaker and Hulk Hogan. Undertaker wins his first title. He went making his debut at 1990 Survivor Series, winning a year later at Survivor Series 91. This is where the myth of Undertaker really takes off for a lot of fans, and he's freaking scary as hell.
Yeah.
Though, what was the demeanor heading into this? Were there always plans? Did you always know, okay, next week it's Taker winning the championship, and then we have this Tuesday in Texas, and where Hogan's going to win it back?
Well, as I mentioned, that Taker had really come into his own already. And think about this. He's 25, 26 at this time. Very young. And he has not been in the WWE that long. But man, he leaps and bounds, because it wasn't just even the character. It was just that people, the way he pulled it off, and people just latched onto that. The toll of the bells, and then like they boom, and then that goes completely dark, and so he was ready then. And I said, he had that confidence, he already had that presence, so they knew he was ready. Vince knew I definitely got somebody here, and another great thing about Mark is that you could work with him. He understood the business early on, and so and he proved that. And of course, he would become the de facto locker room leader, as they say. Not too long after, once Hulk was kind of out of the way, and would be for decades. I mean, he was the guy, and so he knew it, and everybody else knew it, and it was just really a matter of time. It was like, okay, so how do we do this, And he also, as you could imagine, got some opposition from the Hulkster, in a sense, kicking and screaming. And of course, the controversy surrounding that match and the neck injury, that some people thought, well, that's why they turned around and gave it back to him. I don't think that was necessarily the case.
So that was never the case.
Plan. Yeah.
Okay.
But there was some controversy, and I'm sure you've heard Mark tell the story about what happened, and it never changed. His relationship with the Hulkster changed forever. I mean, he did get to see it not too far after. The way he tells the story is that, of course, we didn't have instant replay back then, but it took a few days, and he says that, he had a house event the next night. I mean, these guys had to keep working. But before we even talk about that element of it, there was a little bit of like Hulk, I don't know if I want to call it disrespect or just his resistance to what was happening, is that the Undertaker tombstones him before that. And it's a classic Undertaker tombstone. Well, Hulk pops right up, no sell, just boom, right up. And I'm thinking, now come on. Sell it a little. I could see maybe you getting up, but give me the Hulkster, the 3-arm kind of thing. He pops right back up and then Undertaker turns around, if you recall, then he's used to being able to turn around and methodically go over and cover the guy, and Hulk's right there. Okay, so then you have that, and then you mentioned, then the chair comes in. And as Undertaker tells the story that, Hulk was somebody who didn't, for these pay-per-view events, if let's say it was, that 7:30 start time, Hulk would be there maybe at 4. Mark said he got there at the arena like noon, and he saw that that the Hulkster was there. He's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And the first thing he does when he sees the Hulkster says, "Hey, can we talk? Hey, brother, can we talk?" And he says, I got this bad neck, so I want to make sure, when you do your thing, you're going to take care of me. And Mark's like, "Oh, yeah, Terry, yes, absolutely, because I pride myself, in how I take care of people. I make sure they're safe. And as you said, you look at all those, nobody's head ever even gets close. He's just that good at it. And when he does that bit with the chair, as Rick sends that in, and you probably did the same thing I did. I had it and froze it as he goes down. And what we talking, maybe a good 8 inches,
he's
maybe more. He went way to it was almost like, I don't know how you saw you could sell it was so far up, because he was, especially he wasn't even wasn't dropping him on the canvas. There was a steel chair there, so he's taking extra precaution. And, then immediately he says that when Hulk goes, "Oh, you got me, brother." And then he's in the ring for 10 minutes and, and he's talking and you see him with this, "Oh, can I feel my extremities?" It says, Mark's already gone back and he's freaking out. Like, "Oh my God, I broke Hulk Hogan's neck, the franchise, the Golden Goose. I'm dead. My career's over." And he's like, "Where's Hulk?" And he said he's in Vince's office on the floor, telling him call my wife and my kids. And he's behind, he's in an area there that with Shane, and Shane's telling him he wasn't close. And as you mentioned, after this he couldn't see it. Yeah. And the other boys are telling him that we're watching backstage are saying it was not even close. There's no chance that, so when he did eventually get to see it, and he's like, "Okay, now what do I do? I can't go, take Hulkster to the showers and, settle it." And he approaches him and says, I saw the playback. He goes, I see your head didn't even come close. And he's like, "Well, you had me too tight. I couldn't, and that's why I had no room to move, and I jammed my." And he said, "Right there," because that's all I ever needed to know. And that he totally, he said, "I showed respect to him the rest of career. Whenever he was around, I always made sure I was there, but that was it for him." And whatever reason, maybe there was that little bit of a resistance. I don't think that it was a ploy to get the belt back the next week, but it wasn't, especially for where Mark was in his career. It was like, come on, that wasn't a nice thing to do, and that's putting it mildly, in a sense that was just effed up.
Well, we've heard stories before of other wrestlers being like, hey, like Triple H and Shawn Michaels looking at The Rock and like, that eyebrow thing, kid, I don't think it's going to get over.
Yeah.
I'm taking a wild guess that it's Undertaker rising up and Hogan's like, I'm not Hulk Hogan, but on any story that really comes out that appears and seems like they all align around some lying, some deceiving. But as someone who's been on top for so long, I can imagine that's what has to be done, unfortunately, to continue being the golden goose. Well, how do you say the golden goose? You have to stomp out the rest.
You got to protect yourself, and
sucks.
And I remember that. I remember backstage too. All the guys are saying, "Man, what the," but they're not going to say anything to people who really count because they don't want to damage their career. Mm-hmm. But that was really the feeling backstage was like, what happened? People were thinking, okay, well, maybe it triggered something because Hulk did have a neck injury and maybe just the jarring of it. He didn't have to hit his head for it to do the damage it did. But I think overall, because these guys are professionals and they had taken, that move, because it certainly wasn't something that was unique to just the Undertaker, right. But and so they know, and that was the feeling backstage. So, but like you say, you got to protect yourself. Hulk Hogan openly admits when they tried to unionize that, he went to Vince and told him, I don't want to do this because he said, I was making all this money. I'm not going to sit there and jeopardize my income. And that was that kind of bit of you're on your own, kid. You do what you've got to do to survive. And he would have never did what he did in the world of professional wrestling if he didn't have that mentality. You can't always let somebody step in front of you. You can't always be polite. You got to look out for number one. And he did, and it served him well. Right.
Didn't serve the rest of the people around him, but obviously for him, that's what he wanted. That's what he got. That's what he did. Mm-hmm. And, we'll have to wait and see how that turns out for him. But it's the Undertaker winning the championship. And we got Jack Tunney more this Tuesday in Texas.
The president. Yeah.
Promoting it, saying, I can't do anything about it. Even though I'm the president, I can't do anything about it. The referee, what he did, it stands. I can't change that. But I will book a match for this Tuesday in Texas between Undertaker and Hulk Hogan for the championship.
Yeah,
and
I just came up with that. So this is what we're going to do to get this settled.
That's how he does it. Everything. He's like, Macho Man and Jake don't like each other.
Yeah. After much consideration. Yeah. I've consulted with many people and parties involved.
There was.
This is what Vince McMahon wants us to do.
There were beakers. It was we were working hard all night for this, but we made it now, and this is where. Before it was like, okay, it's happening a couple times. This is really where this Tuesday in Texas, the Survivor Series turns into that commercial for it because they won't stop talking about this event because the back half of the Survivor Series.
Yeah, it was filler, so we could talk about what we want you to do on Tuesday. So that's exactly what it all came down to. And as I said, this is a 2-part series that we're doing here, Steve, because we're going to talk about this Tuesday in Texas, which was very memorable also for me because a few of the events, and it's a kind of a teaser, but my time backstage with the Macho Man Randy Savage. So we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yes, I can't wait for that. Beverly Brothers and the Nasty Boys versus the Rockers and the Bushwhackers. All you need to know about this match is that it begins the Rockers storyline of, hey, Marty accidentally kicks Shawn in the face. He gets eliminated. But on commentary, any review you look up about this, it's Gorilla Monsoon mistakenly not paying attention at all, and he
was
just
rare.
He's like, what's going on? He's like, why is Shawn Michaels in his face? Why is he walking away? He got counted out. What's happening? Like, does that happen a lot?
What kind of a teammate is he?
Like, dude, he's got kicked in the face.
Yeah, I'll give that to Gorilla. I'm letting that's a pass. He gets that on me. But forever, I loved Gorilla. So
yeah, of course. And that's all that match really was. And then the main event is Legion of Doom and the Big Boss Man, which could have had Macho Man take on the Natural Disasters and IRS, which could have had Jake the Snake Roberts, but we didn't get that. The crowd goes home happy. The baby faces win. Is that why Hogan and Taker, you think, is the third match, or that's just the beginning of how to promote this Tuesday in Texas?
No, that's as I told you. That was the purpose of it, was to allow them to spend the other half of this event plugging the next one. And, take it for what it was, but it accomplished what they'd set out to do. That's what they wanted to do. And they were able to, have the backstage interviews, the outrage, building it up. And it was another way to look at, okay, so how can we promote these things? We can do them within events, but then you got to walk a fine line where people aren't going, I'm watching a freaking commercial here. Or this is what I paid my money for. So you can get, just set me up to get more from me. And will you deliver next time? I hope so. God, but I guess I'll have to come back and pay a little more to find out.
Yeah. Again, everyone seems to be happy. But again, the last thing is you're backstage too. You're like, Hogan won't talk to me. He won't talk to me, guys. And like, well, I guess he won't talk to you. But let's go to
slam that door.
Yeah, slam that door in your face. It happened a lot to you, actually. A lot of doors slammed in your face on television.
I didn't take it personally. Yeah, I did. And it still hurts.
It still hurts. I'm so
Thanks
sorry
for bringing it up, Steve. I appreciate it.
It was in the notes. You wrote, mention this, please. I want to cry on camera. But the last thing we actually see is how Bobby Heenan earlier was yelling that the Hulkamania is dead because Taker beat him for the championship. The last thing we see, it's very cryptic. It's very scary. It's Mean Gene. It's Taker, and it's Paul Bear pretty much saying, like, this Tuesday in Texas. And they promote that match, and it's very scary because you see a casket close on the camera, and that's the end of the event, which is what a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and I learned something else today. You do an acceptable Paul Bearer. Very nice.
I love him in this. If you watch enough wrestling and you watch Paul Bear here, he's only been around for a few months, so his character is slowly developing itself. He came in very morbid, very like quiet, and now this one he's like, he's like shaking the urn at the camera. I'm like, dude, this is peak Paul Bear. But that's Survivor Series 91 though.
He pulled that roll off really well, and and he had the fleshy hand. Even when he shook his hand, it was he was a perfect mortician. I would not put it this way: you wouldn't let your teenage daughter near him. I think because of that creepy factor that he was able to radiate. So he was perfect for that role. Loved
he was. The last thing before we wrap this up is, though, the ending is your Survivor Series. Last year we had the grand finale match where every winner of every Survivor Series match would eventually go into a final match, the grand finale, good guys versus bad guys. This one didn't have that, but in a magazine months prior, it did promote that Survivor Series was going to have the grand finale. But also, I used to get Christmas magazines from the WWE sent to me in March. So I'm not judging, but the press and the timing never matched up on the magazine's two events ever.
All right, but let's be honest here. WWF magazine was not the New York Times. It wasn't where everything was like. It was also a promotional magazine. It just we had people write articles in between merchandise shots. Okay, so if that was if that was considered your dirt sheet, that you were in trouble. I'm calling up the Macho Man line right now and.
It's the golden age of WWE. Larger than life of fantasy. Step in the ring, feel history. Welcome to the golden WWE.